interested in having a meeting. They said they don't object to the routine exercises that the United States and South Korea were going to hold in the spring, and that was one of the reasons the president was willing to accept the meeting, is because he said, look, they're not asking for something unreasonable like that we should cancel that exercise. Now they're bringing this up after having already said that they don't object. It's a little bit curious that they would bring up something that they had already said was fine with them and now try to treat it as if it was this new thing that they're worried about. That's suggestive.
The only thing we would say is canceled, it seems, or postponed, is the meeting with South Korea. That has been pushed back. Now, South Korea is going to work to make sure there's no problem with ours in Singapore, June 12th. But I'll bring up a series of events. 2 meetings with Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, one when he was CIA director. And then they come back with 3 hostages, and the president says a few nice things. Now, all of a sudden, there's a degree of panic. Do you think there's something to the school of thought that maybe China is behind this? Sees something maybe getting out of control. They had that weird summit in China where he showed up and they went to the beach. I'm wondering if something's there.
I doubt it. My own read is that China probably wants this meeting to happen because China wants to see tensions on the Korean Peninsula reduced. So I think the Chinese, who are the North Koreans, really their only ally. They're responsible for about 90% of all trade with North Korea. They're North Koreans' biggest backers. My take is that China probably wants the meeting to happen. So I think, if anything, that they would probably be encouraging Kim to go through with it because they want to see tensions reduced. They want to see more calm on the Korean Peninsula. Right. So it's very curious as to know what's going on. Probably what's happening is Kim and the people around him think that maybe this is a time that they can try to get something from the United States, extract something from the United States, see if the president wants the meeting so much he's willing to give up something to make sure that it happens. This is a test, perhaps, for the president.
Mike, for you to be able to reach over, glance down, and shut off that phone while not breaking stride is a wonder for all to look over to. Good job there, shutting off your ringer. Michael Anton, thanks so much. It's kind of interesting. I appreciate you joining us. If you're at the White House, you're watching the media cheer for Hamas and then kind of salute Kim Jong-un for pushing back on the president. That's how twisted things are in America's media today. Huge hour ahead. Kellyanne Conway will be joining us live on the couch. Mike Huckabee not allowed on the couch as of yet. We'll see if we can break that.
Will the special counsel do anything regarding the President of the United States? And Rudy made it very clear. You cannot indict a sitting president.
He's being challenged by Manafort, looks like successfully, to produce his authorization to indict Manafort. I don't think he wants a battle with us over that.
The New York Times posting this report. Did they actually confirm that James Comey's FBI spied on the Trump campaign with an embed informant?
There's probably no doubt that they had at least one confidential informant in the campaign.
President Trump meeting with politicians opposed to California's sanctuary laws.
It is a crisis. That's the point we're at in California. It's a crisis.
Israel launching more airstrikes, hitting 7 Hamas terror targets in Gaza.
Is there a proper way for me to do this?
Well, no. I mean, some people raise their pinky.
She's actually
British. Can you be British to sing this song?
She is actually singing about George Brett of the Kansas City Royals, but because the wedding is in 2 days, the royal wedding seems appropriate.
George Brett, who we originally named our Hall of Fame after. We once had a Fox and Friends Hall of Fame, and he was our most famous person, so we named it after him, and he never came back.
Maybe there's a reason for that.
Am I right, Joe? He never came back.
Well, Ainsley is over in Windsor, England, ahead of the royal wedding on Saturday, Ainsley.
Oh, boy.
I know. Abby, Brian, and Steve, there is a castle behind me. We watched Downton Abbey, we watched The Crown, and we are actually here live in Windsor. This is unbelievable. I think, we go to Disney World and we see Cinderella's, castle that they've made. This is an actual castle, and an American is about to join the royal family, and she's going to live in a castle. It is just unbelievable. The energy here is amazing. We were driving out early this morning. You saw people lining the streets. They already have their chairs ready and their posters. We saw the British flags hanging from people's houses. It is just unbelievable. Meghan Markle is going to join the royal family on Saturday at noon, and I'll tell you what's going to happen that day. We'll all be here live on noon to show it to you, but there's going to be a lunchtime reception afterwards. It's hosted by the Queen. Then she gives everyone a little break, and then they come back for an evening reception, and that's hosted by Prince Charles. The wedding is costing, guys, $45 million. $42 million of that is for security.
Well, they need it.
Wow.
All right.
Unreal.
Also, I just saw a story. Apparently, Elton John will be performing live at the wedding as well. All right, Ainsley, we'll see you in a little while. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Will be
Ainsley.
performing. Okay, sounds good.
And
Thanks,
it'll be
guys.
70 and sunny. What a perfect day.
He sings at everything royal, doesn't he?
And why not?
He's a knight over there. Meanwhile, Kellyanne Conway is counselor to President Trump. She joins us from the North Lawn. Kellyanne, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Well, the President of the United States, I'm sure you saw this. He just tweeted 4 minutes ago, wow. Word seems to be coming out that the Obama FBI spied on the Trump campaign with an embedded informant. Andrew McCarthy says there's probably no doubt that they had at least one confidential informant in the campaign. If so, this is bigger than Watergate. And he had this one as well.
Yeah,
Andy.
he says, congratulations, America. We are now into the second year of the greatest witch hunt in American history, and there is still no collusion and no obstruction. The only collusion was that done by Democrats who were unable to win an election despite the spending of far more money. I feel like we don't even need to get your reaction from the president this morning, Kellyanne, but what do you say?
We like to say that the president is his own best communications director, and I often encourage him to interface with the public directly. I'm very glad he does that through his vast social media reach and platforms, because it's the democratization of information. Americans all at the same time cutting out the middlemen, and we know the middlemen don't like it. The president communicates with Americans and really the world directly and instantly all at the same time. So let's take these two tweets together and see where the president is thinking about the current state of play. That a year plus into the Mueller investigation, we know a few things, but what we know very crisply and significantly is that as these revelations are making their way forward, it looks like the Trump campaign may in fact have been surveilled. It looks like there was an informant there. We'll see, as the president likes to say, we'll see what happens. We'll see what the facts may reveal. But I think those who have been digging for and conjecturing for over a year should be careful what they wish for. I don't know what this person was hoping to gain. Maybe he or she should have been listening a little bit more carefully to what our digital strategy was and our 50% digital ads, 50% conventional television and radio ads. Maybe they should have been listening to me on TV 6 or 7 times a day explaining why we're going back to Pennsylvania, why the president's headed to places like the president now, Wisconsin and Michigan,
right.
and places
Kelly,
that he won that Republicans hadn't won in a very long time. So, but the president and his team have been so cooperative with this investigation. We're $10 million plus into it. We're over a year. Everybody has turned over the documents. They've been in there to visit the special counsel. They've been up on Capitol Hill sharing information. You see a release of transcripts yesterday from some testimony. People are cooperative, but this president also doesn't let him distract him. I sat in the Senate Republican lunch with the president 2 days ago, and you heard senator after senator tell this president he is the most successful president in their lifetimes. In 16 months of tax cuts and regulatory reductions and getting to close to making conversations, if not deals, with North Korea and South Korea. He's been here basically 7 weeks since Director Pompeo, now Secretary of State Pompeo, went to North Korea. 7 weeks of big activity, and yet 70 years of war between the Koreas. And it's this president's leadership that helps those hostages come home, and so many other great things happen.
I just want to bring you to one thing, just so you speculate. I'm just wondering, you could easily punt on this question, but the New York Times actually says this: at least one government informant met several times with Page and Papadopoulos. So there's some government informant within the Trump camp. Could you just tell me if you have an idea of who that might be?
I don't have an idea, and let me say something more important than knowing whom the informant may be. I don't know Carter Page or George Papadopoulos. And if somebody finds some picture where I was in a room with George Papadopoulos and 100 other people, great. Let me explain for the cameras again. I was the campaign manager for the winning part of the campaign. I saw Carter Page on a different network tell the anchor, I've never met Kellyanne Conway. I don't know these two people. And so it looks like they had some very tangential involvement with the campaign earlier on.
Yep.
So maybe this happened then. But I think that's very important to note, which is when the campaign team and the structure changed and expanded in August due to the president making his own decisions, then, I mean, the president offered me the campaign manager job, just the two of us together, August 12th. It was a Friday. It was announced the next Wednesday, and he hired somebody else in between that. But if this happened to happen earlier on, if you're talking about Page and Papadopoulos, and this is very important because this whole idea that we're all there together, you saw what we were doing. We were out every day, we were very transparent with our strategy. President Trump was doing 6 or 7 big speeches, stops
he wasn't
a
checking
day
with
toward the end.
Papadopoulos.
You know where he was.
All right, Kellyanne, let's get your thoughts on North Korea. You were already talking about that. The most recent news out of North Korea saying that they are thinking about not coming to the negotiating table because of this joint military exercise with South Korea. What would cause President Trump to ultimately walk away from this thing?
Well, President Trump has made very clear from the beginning, Abby, and it hasn't changed, that if the conditions are right, and so far they were looking good for a while, including the release of those 3 detainees, which people should not gloss over as a check-the-box event. That was an amazingly transformative event. So many of these fruits have already occurred from the president's leadership. But the president has said he can easily walk away also. We'll see what happens. And it's not just up to President Trump. He's ready to go on June 12th. But it's really up to North Korea and I suppose South Korea and what they're doing together. I just saw this morning that North Korea put out a statement. They have a problem with South Korea's leadership. So we'll continue to monitor that. And the president, very much likes the fact that based on his leadership, that and his team, including Secretary of State Pompeo going over there 2 times, that North Korea has already suspended some of their exercises. But this president has made very clear denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula is in everybody's best interest.
Kellyanne, I understand they have not even reached formally out to you guys. North Korea has not formally reached out and had registered any complaints about John Bolton's words or about military exercises. All this has been done through the media. Is that correct?
Well, I will say this about that, since I will not confirm or deny that. I will tell you this, that so much is litigated in the media and it just gets repeated and retweeted without verification. Some people call it fake news. I refer to it as uninformed conjecture, speculation. And it's dangerous because people think speculative opinion, wishful thinking, conclusions in search of evidence somehow rise to the level of facts, particularly those always talking about facts. And they should think thrice about that. Litigating this through the media when you're talking about something as significant as Sarah Sanders has said, where we are monitoring the situation, but we want to verify what is fact and what is fiction before we run out and state that. And I'll leave that to the president and his national security team if there's an announcement to be made.
All right, Kellyanne, quickly, earlier this week you said that there would be changes in the White House regarding the leaks, the challenges you guys have faced. Just quickly, what is the update? What is the latest on the leakings coming out of the White House?
Well, I think the people who were leaking last week clearly were doing that to hurt the people who were the target of those leaks. And then there is the 99.8% of the information that we know, that some of us know in this place, that never gets leaked. If there were big leaks coming out of this White House, the fruit of the leaks would be in the newspaper, not the process of the leaks.
Do you know who the leakers are, though, Kellyanne, at this point?
Somewhat, yes. But they're not all in the press and comm shop either, and they're not all junior folks. I mean, let's be very honest here. Hundreds and hundreds of people work on this complex. A lot of people have access to sensitive information, other non-sensitive, non-classified information.
Right. And Kellyanne, some of the leaks are authorized. The administration wants to get the word out, maybe float a trial balloon, but it's the unauthorized one, as you said, to try to destroy somebody. Those are the troublesome ones for you.
Right. And so I think smaller, tighter meetings are always a better idea. You're just telling people on a need-to-know basis. And I think those of us who are the public faces on behalf of this administration, most of what we know and can be made publicly available, we do. That's the point of me standing here. But there's so much, most of what goes on here and what is known to us is not known to people on the outside. And I think that's incredibly important to note also. Think about the things that did not leak. The First Lady's procedure earlier in this week, and thank God she's fine. Mr. Pompeo going to North Korea over Easter. The First Lady's guest at the State of the Union. There were many, never leaked. I think 8 or 10 of us knew that. So there are, again, I think you have to look at the absence of harmful leaks. But there are many people who nobody knows who they are because they're not household names, perhaps. They're not public faces administration. They have access to information also. So I think that we're taking a broader look at that also. But the president also wants me to make very clear to all of you that he knows a lot of this is made up also. That speaking of, if you're going to speculate and bloviate about North Korea and what may or may not be true there, you certainly are going to speculate about leaks. But let me make very clear, most of the stories this week were about the process of leaks, not the fruit from those leaks.
Gotcha.
And there are tighter, smaller meetings, and I think that's very helpful to this president in promoting his agenda.
Good to know what's going on behind
Good to see you this morning. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
All right, 13 minutes now after the hour. We now know what millennials don't like. What millennials don't like about President Trump. But even this is outrageous.
Would you rather date a Trump supporter or a convicted felon?
A convicted felon.
Felon.
A convicted felon, 100%.
Seriously?
Wow.
Plus, Governor Mike Huckabee
That can't be real.
Just got back from Israel after the dedication of the U.S. Embassy. He will join us live on that show.
For shows on Channel 114. Plus, every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7 at Channel 115.
Would you rather date a Trump supporter or a convicted felon?
A convicted felon.
Felon.
A convicted felon, 100%.
All right, you heard that right. More millennials saying they'd rather date a convicted felon than a Trump supporter. How can a criminal be more appealing than someone with different political views? Joining us now, Chuck Woolery. Only kidding. With his reaction, his criminal defense attorney, homicide detective, Fox News contributor, Ted Williams. Ted, do these people know what they're talking about when they know what a convicted felon is? You arrest convicted felons. Describe some of them.
Okay, Brian, let me get this straight. These people are saying that they would much prefer to date a child molester, someone who has molested a little baby. They would much prefer to date a murderer, someone who is just killed at random. They would much prefer to date a rapist, some of these people who have broken into homes in the middle of the night and have raped even 80 and 90-year-old women. I mean, I hate to be so melodramatic about this and serious about it, but while they're laughing about this, this is a very serious matter in our country, what goes on in the criminal justice system with seriously convicted criminals. So I've got a serious problem with this, and it's very troubling.
But there is some serious hatred on both sides. But towards the president, this president like I haven't seen before. You also got people who are very passionate for the president like I've never seen before. How do you describe this? I believe actually, even though some of those people are answering fun, I actually believe some of them believe what they're saying.
I do also. I think that there's a racial divide in this country, not only racial divide, but a division of hatred. Look, Trump supporters are Americans. They believe in what they believe. They have a right to believe in what they believe. And I think it marginalizes when you say that you would prefer to date a convicted felon, and I think you mean even seriously convicted felons, rather than to date a Trump supporter. That's very, very troubling, Brian.
Yeah, when you watch Spike Lee go over there and describe our country in such horrific ways, and then when you see a Trump supporter who gets bawled out because he works at a cheesecake factory with a Trump-supporting hat on, you know that things are really getting over the top. Ted Williams, thanks so much.
My pleasure.
All right, 10 minutes before the bottom of the hour. This college graduate is going out with a bang, so to speak, posing with her rifle on campus. And the message, come take it if you want. We'll hear from her coming up. Plus, New York City just moved one step closer to legalizing pot. Is that a good idea to mellow us out as a city?
Good morning to you and welcome back. We have some quick headlines for you. The Senate voting to keep Obama-era net neutrality rules. They stop service providers from slowing down or blocking sites and charging customers more for certain content. The Trump administration calls it overregulation. The bill is unlikely to survive in the House. First Lady Melania Trump giving a personal update on her health, tweeting, quote, a sincere thank you to Walter Reed Medical Unit and to all who have sent good wishes and prayers. I am feeling great and look forward to getting back home to the White House soon. The First Lady underwent a procedure Monday to treat a benign kidney condition. President Trump has visited her every day this week, and we wish her well. Steve?
We do indeed. All right, Jillian, thank you. Meanwhile, New York City's district attorney will soon stop prosecuting low-level pot cases. This comes as New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio promises to overhaul the New York City Police Department's drug enforcement policies. So is it a good idea or a bad idea? We've got two people. One feels it's good, the other bad. Lisa Garber is a New York attorney who supports the policy change. And former Nashville police officer and host of podcast Beyond the Badge, Vincent Hill, is opposed to the plan. He joins us from Atlanta. All right, Lisa, tell me why you think this is a good idea for them not to prosecute low-level pot cases here in New York City.
Sure. It's a little problematic because de Blasio has been wishy-washy for years now on lighting up a doobie in Manhattan. And the problem is that now across all of the boroughs of New York, we're seeing increased levels of racially discriminatory charged arrests. And for low-level marijuana crimes... Why are they racially
charged?
We're looking at statistics of 86% of Black or Hispanic, and that is way out of whack with the trend in New York in general.
Okay, Vincent, what do you think?
Well, it's quite simple, Steve. If you don't want to go to jail, if you don't want to get arrested, don't break the law. And right now, the law in New York is that marijuana is illegal. So no matter how big or how small the crime is, if you don't want to go to jail, don't break the law. I've arrested black people, white people, Chinese, Asian, you name it, because they were breaking the law, not because I wanted to have some disproportionate stat of black people in jail. It's because they were breaking the law. It's that simple.
Ultimately, Lisa, he makes a great point. Pot is still a Class 1 controlled substance. It is against the federal law to have it in your possession.
But in state law, 29 states allow the medical use of marijuana, including New York.
Indeed.
There are 9 states that allow it for recreational use, and we're seeing a trend, and New York will likely follow that trend at some point. I think de Blasio's method is a little underwhelming because he's not really attacking the root of the problem here, which are racially charged arrests. But in terms of marijuana usage, there are no statistics saying somebody lighting up a doobie is going to commit a more serious offense or a more serious crime, and they don't technically have to arrest people for lighting up in public. They can issue a summons, or they can say it's just a violation, like a traffic ticket.
Well, you know, Vincent, it does seem as if they're getting the cart before the horse. It is not legal. You know, the recreational pot thing is not legal here in New York City. If they want to make it legal, have Bill de Blasio go in front of the council and have him change the law here.
Yeah, that's right, Steve. And listen, I'll say this. I've arrested so many people that have wrecked their cars because they were under the influence of marijuana. I've gotten guns off the street from a simple marijuana charge. So this is much bigger than, oh, it's just a minor charge. Criminals are criminals. And listen, we just opened up a lot of jobs to drug dealers in New York City because basically they're saying, well, if I don't package it for resale, then I know I can't be arrested for it, but I can still make the money. I can still sell those drugs. It's a win-win for them.
All right. Well, let's see what happens now that they're going to start doing it. Lisa Garber here in New York and Vincent Hill down in Atlanta. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
You bet. All right, what do you think about that? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Meanwhile, over on the big board, according to the rundown, Mike Huckabee just returned from Israel. So what's really going on over there? He will join us live for a report. And Ainsley is live in England for the royal wedding, and she's got a special guest coming up, don't you?
That's exactly right, Steve. Steve Hilton is here, another one of our favorite Steves. He says 2 years after Brexit, and it's still a mess over here. He said the establishment is trying to stop the will of the people, and he compares that to what's happening in America. Stay with us.
Hey, little sister, what is it you wish? Hey, little sister, what's your spicy wish? Have a house party, we don't need nobody. Turn your TV off, break that boombox out. We'll wake up.
No rain is going to stop us from having a party this morning.
It would be great if the Northeast had a retractable roof. I would close it. It's been raining for 7 straight days. It's impossible to have that not affect your mood.
I'll tell you, it's been raining so much. Skip Bedell in the next segment is actually building an ark.
Absolutely. Let's see if we
Over
get
the
it done.
pool. That's still outside.
Hey, meanwhile, Governor Mike Huckabee has a spring in his step. He was there for an historic event over in Israel. He's the governor of Arkansas, a Fox News contributor. He's got his own show on the weekends. He doesn't have to wear a tie because it's named after him. Governor, welcome back.
Well, great to be with you guys again. Always a delight.
So are you surprised? Here we are at this historic event that 3 presidents promises to pull off. This one does. And most of the coverage is how cold-hearted the Hamas was treated and the Palestinians were treated in Gaza.
Hamas is masters of propaganda. It's too bad they're not really masters of trying to help people out of poverty. In fact, their actions keep people in poverty. That's their goal, keep them uneducated, impoverished, and subservient. Let me give you an example. I've been to the Gaza border many times. They continue to try to build tunnels so they can go underground, get into Israel, and kill Israelis. Every time they build one of those, on average, those tunnels cost $3 million. The Israelis blow it up and block it. But that's $3 million that could have been built for housing, provide food, infrastructure. But in Gaza, it's an absolute disaster. And these poor people, and it's horrific what's happening to them, but it's happening at the hands of Hamas because they are using them as human shields, and they are exploiting their poverty and their complete lack of understanding of what they're being used for.
What was it like for you to be there?
It was one of the most surreal moments. I've been going to Israel. This year marks my 45th year. The first trip was in 1973 when I was 17. So in all the times I've been there, I got to be honest, sitting there in that ceremony and seeing that curtain come down and looking at the word embassy in Jerusalem, it just sent chills up my spine because it's something that many of us had been hoping for, praying for, working toward. It's not just symbolic. It is a substantive recognition, and this president deserves all the credit for having the courage to do what other presidents promised but did not deliver.
All right. Meanwhile, as we are wrapping up our segment on what was going on during your visit, let's talk a little bit about what's coming up in the month of June. It sounds like the 12th. The summit is still on between the President of the United States and Kim Jong-un, although, suddenly he's kind of stirring the pot. He's saying, these military exercises, I don't like those, and I don't like the fact that they're suggesting that I've got to pull the plug on all the nukes. What's going on behind the scenes, do you think? Is he just trying to continue to say, hey, I'm over here, look at me?
I think a lot of it is the bravado and saber rattling that is necessary for him to assure his people that he's not surrendering, he's not giving up everything, that he's going into it with a sense of strength. But all of that posturing doesn't change the fact that he has been willing and said publicly to completely get rid of nuclear arms. If that indeed happens, it is an amazing reset of all of Asia. And there's no guarantee, and nobody's being so Pollyannish about it to say, oh, it's all going to be fine, because it may not. It may fall apart. But again, give Donald Trump credit for getting us closer than any president ever has in dealing with the situation of the peninsula. And when everybody was condemning him for his tough talk, turns out it worked. He had the right instincts, and he's got the right policies.
Well, Governor, not only is the president not getting credit by certain folks in the media, but some are already asking the question, if this meeting doesn't take place, is that a failure on the president's part? What does that tell you about where we are as a country, that we can't at least come together on wanting success when it comes to North Korea? That's not just good for us and for the people in North Korea. That's good for the world.
It's incredibly good for the world. And Abby, one of the things that's frustrating to watch is people on the left who seem to hate Donald Trump more than they love the country and love the peace that this world desperately needs. They should be grateful if Donald Trump can bring some type of resolution. They need to be glad that he did it. And if they don't like him, that's fine. They don't have to like him, but they need to appreciate what he's getting done, which, by the way, is quite a bit.
It is. Also, there are a couple of dozen judges now that have been put in place. If you count the Supreme Court judge, I think there's 22 overall. and he's pressuring the Republican senators to do more before they go on break, we're beginning to realize it's up to Mitch McConnell to start getting these people nominated and processed, some of them without any controversy. They're just being held up by Democrats. Do you think the Republicans, because you know politicians, do you think they're getting the message?
Well, if they don't, they're going to be going home. And what they need to do is to go ahead and roll these nominations through, get these appointments filled, and not just the judicial, but also the staffing positions throughout the agencies. There are so many unplugged holes right now. And I've heard some senators say that they would like to see them work on the weekends and work overtime.
Why not?
Well, that's what everyone else does when their job isn't done on time and on schedule and on deadline. So why not the senators do what every other American has to do, and that's get the job done before they go home and take a vacation.
Well, let's see what they do. All right, Mike Huckabee joining us today from Tennessee. Sir, thank you very much.
Always good to see you, Governor.
Yeah.
Great to see you guys.
I believe that's the set of his show, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great one. All right, over to Jillian for some other headlines we're following this morning. Hey, Jillian.
That's right. Good morning to you at home as well. Let's get you caught up on this. Sets the record straight.
This is the most insane one of the bunch.
Okay, can you tell me what's going on there?
My mother's the one leading us, and my wife has gone crazy.
Krista Glover arrested for domestic violence charges. She reportedly attacked him for playing badly. Glover says he's confident his wife will be cleared. A message of hate plastered on a statue dedicated to our fallen men and women in uniform. Now police are looking for the person responsible for writing a derogatory slam against them on a memorial in Fitchburg, Massachusetts.
So to say that this is hallowed ground for us, that's an understatement. We ask people to respect this area. This area is sacred to the men and women that serve this community valiantly.
Well, this happening during National Police Memorial Week. The statue, all cleaned up, will be featured during the city's Police Memorial event on Sunday morning. A college grad is going out with a bang. Kent State University graduate Caitlin Bennett posing for photos you see right there on campus with an AR-10 rifle with her cap reading, quote, "Come and take it." Bennett joined us earlier and told us she wanted to take a jab at the policies that Kent State has that doesn't let students carry guns on campus. Kent State releasing a statement saying Bennett did not break any rules since she carried the gun on campus after graduating. Well, it's the new viral debate that is literally tearing people apart. Do you hear Yanny or Laurel?
Laurel. Laurel. Laurel.
Is everyone ready to end this? Yeah. Because we can. It's officially Laurel, not Yanny. Woohoo! The New York Times actually tracked down the 18-year-old behind it, who says he recorded the pronunciation for Laurel on the website vocabulary.com. And I think, Steve, you were explaining earlier that he heard Laurel, some of his friends heard Yanny, and that's how this whole thing started.
Typed in the word Laurel on vocabulary.com, and I just heard Yanny.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
But let's end it. It's over. Okay?
It's Laurel.
Yes.
Yeah. No debate.
I say Janet, but Janice Dean suddenly thinks it's time to do the weather.
Oh, that's so kind. I would love that. You know what? It is raining outside, but the ducks don't care. Look how well I matched with the rubber ducks. We are going to be doing a segment on pools and pool safety with our friend Skip Bedell coming up. But first, let's take a look at the weather. Yes, it's raining outside, but you can still swim in the rain. You can still build a pool in the rain. Across the country, we do have temperatures that are a little cooler than average. And then the rain, unfortunately, is going to be heavy at times across the East Coast, Florida. And that is going to remain sort of the picture as we head through Friday and Saturday. We've got the stakes going on in Baltimore, and we are watching Justify, and we are definitely looking at the potential for showers, but this horse did so well at the Kentucky Derby, and it was a mutter. So there's your forecast today. Eastern third of the country is going to remain wet. It is going to be sunny and 97 in Phoenix. All right, I can't wait to talk to Skip Bedell. He's right over here.
He is.
And we're also going to talk to the duck.
We got the duck in here.
The duck is here.
The duck's ready.
Look at this, we match. You look pretty
you can
adorable,
actually take the
Janice.
duck for a ride in the pool.
I love it. Stay tuned.
All right.
A duck for a ride in the pool.
That is a tease for you.
Skip, go back to working on that arc.
All right, Ainsley is live in England for the royal wedding, and she has a special guest with her. Ainsley, who you got?
I have Steve Hilton here. Normally we have him with us in New York, and now we're back in his neck of the woods. Although, what did you say when you sat down,
Yeah,
Steve?
it's fun. Ainsley said it must be nice to be home. And I said, you know what? Actually, America feels like home. I feel like I'm a visitor.
I love it. I love it.
There we go. But it is great to be here. It's so exciting. This special weekend coming up. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Well, we're going to talk about Brexit, what a mess it is
That's
right
going
now.
on as well. It's not just royal wedding celebrations. There's a big thing going on with Brexit.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Everybody start looking real good. That great goose got your girl feeling loose. Now I'm wishing that I didn't wear these shoes. It's like every time I get up on the do.
13 gang member busted crossing into the U.S. Border agents catching the illegals trying to sneak around immigration checkpoints 80 miles into Texas. And ICE agents rounding up nearly 80 illegal immigrants in a massive 5-state sweep. The Midwest operation spanning 6 days. 62 of the people arrested had prior criminal convictions. 31 had illegally re-entered the U.S. after being deported. And it's been almost 2 years since the U.K. voted to leave the EU, and the breakup still kind of a mess.
Well, our next guest says that just like in the United States, the British establishment is trying to stop the will of the people.
So let's head out to Windsor, where Ainsley is with former Director of Strategy for British Prime Minister David Cameron and, of course, host of The Next Revolution, Steve Hilton. Good morning, Ainsley.
Good morning to you. Yes, Steve Hilton is sitting beside me, and as you heard right before that break, he sat down and I said, welcome home. Does it feel good to be home? And you said, I really love America. I consider America home.
That's right.
But you've come back to London. You lived in London. You're going to take me around London today,
Yeah, we
right?
can have fun. But I'm going to take you to some pubs, some of the
We like
places.
that.
Obviously, you know, that's the first stop for any proper British tour. And then we're going to be going to some of the places I used to hang out and where I used to spend time and where I lived and stuff like that. We're going to have a fun time. Yeah.
So Brexit 2 years ago, and it's still a mess.
It's really interesting to me, the comparison with what's going on back home, if I can say that, in America, where in 2016, 2 years ago, these two big events happened where the people rejected what the experts said and what the establishment said, and they rejected what had gone before. They voted for Brexit here in the UK, and in America, obviously, for Donald Trump. And in both situations, the establishment is fighting what I call this counter-revolution, trying to undo the results of that popular vote. We see it all the time, obviously, in America with the Mueller probe and Russia and all that stuff, which we're very familiar with and cover the whole time. But here in England, what's going on with Brexit is that they're basically trying to stop it from happening. They're saying, slow down, maybe we should have a second referendum, maybe we should kind of leave the EU but not really, stay in some parts of the EU. It's really interesting to see how those two big voices of the people that were expressed in those votes are trying to be overturned by the establishment.
Who is your establishment here in Britain? The elites?
I think it's a combination of the bureaucracy, the civil servants who were always against it. They're very comfortable with the way things were being part of the EU. The business establishment, big business, loves the EU because it makes their life easier, and they operate at this globalist kind of way.
Does it backfire when we see what the establishment in the United States is doing? Does it backfire eventually? The American public, they're pretty smart. They see what's happening, right?
Yeah, and it's the same here, actually. So there's a lot of people running around saying we need a second referendum. Tony Blair is leading a campaign to have a second referendum to overturn the first one.
Wow.
But actually, the poll...
Well, we're here for the wedding, which happens in 2 days. What are your friends saying about this wedding, a Brit marrying an American?
It's really interesting because there's a strong minority. I would say is a minority in England where, you know, and when there's a big royal occasion like this, they get a bit kind of embarrassed by all the flummery and the fawning. It's all a bit embarrassing, you know, it's kind of old-fashioned. But what's different about this one is the character of the two people at the heart of it. It's just very obvious to everyone that they are a great couple, that Harry and Meghan are just really cool people.
They seem to be.
They have a lovely relationship, and I think that... that
show that comes up in just a few minutes.
It is so fun to be in Windsor with you guys. What a good time this is. I was not expecting the anticipation, the excitement. Since I landed and have walked the streets here today, a little bit of a breeze, but it's a lovely, warm, sunny day here. The people here have really embraced Meghan Markle, and the excitement is it's fun to see, and you really feel happy for this couple. And we've got some royal historians coming on America's Newsroom coming up, and we're going to learn some of the most recent details of this big wedding happening on Saturday. Shepard Smith, Ainsley Earhart, and I will be on the long walk just outside the Windsor Palace. So we look forward to the big wedding. We'll be covering it here live in Windsor. Fun to be here with you guys. America's Newsroom's coming up. And there's a lot of news back home, so Bill and I will be covering all of that for you. He's in New York. I'm here. Join us on America's Newsroom in a few moments.
All right, and we have more Fox and Friends coming up.
This morning, it's all about making a splash with a brand new pool or a spa.
Back with all of us once again, the host of To Catch a Contractor and home improvement expert, Skip Bedell.
Morning, Skip.
We're here, guys.
If somebody watching right now, if they wanted to, they could actually have an in-ground pool by the time they come home work.
Guys, this is unbelievable. San Juan Pools can do it in one day. You go to work in the morning, you come home, you can actually have an in-ground pool at your house delivered and filled the same day. It's amazing. It used to take a month to do an in-ground pool. These guys can do it in the same day.
How do they do that? They just dig a big hole?
They
and put it
dig
in
the hole, they drop it in, and they fill it. Look at this one. It's a 12 by 25 pool with a built-in spa.
How much
got
is
a
this
two for
thing?
a pool and spa.
Does it come with a lifeguard?
Yeah, you're the lifeguard. This thing is unbelievable. They threw the panel up on your roof, heats the pool, and then cools the panel and electrifies your house.
All right,
It'll be mandatory in
10-person
California
spa?
soon.
Is
So
that what
this is the Montreal. This is a 10-person spa.
Wow.
Look at this thing.
Wow.
You can use this as a pool or a spa. Again, dig the hole, put it in. They can set this up the same day.
You realize we have a NAFTA segment? We got a San Juan pool and a Montreal
And
pool.
San Juan, you got it. It's
But
right
you know
here on the
what?
plaza, guys.
That's the worst thing about a hot tub is they're so small that it gets
10
uncomfortable.
people you can put in this thing.
Right.
Guys, I got to tell you about this. This is an above ground
I love
pool.
that.
This is a patio pool above ground. So look at this. It's dug in 18 inches. So it's actually 40 inches deep. When you dig it in the ground, this sits right on your patio. This comes ready to swim the same day. They put it right on your patio. It's ready to go, just like you see it. You put it right on top of your pavers and you're done.
Above ground pools used to be just that circular that was.
Look how deep
not
it is, though.
super
It's,
attractive.
this all goes in the ground.
And this is nice.
This is the
I like the
Sedona.
brick.
This is by the way, this is coming home with me today.
Wait.
This is going at the Bedell house. Oh yeah. San Juan Pools. These guys are great. 100 models.
Summer's coming, leaving here. SkipBedell.com for more information. Skip, thank you very much.